Hi guys, it's me Sam here today, and today we are going to be talking about the new Natasha Denona My Dream collection. I picked up the palette and the cheek trio and we're gonna talk about it, play with it, and yeah, I'll let you guys know what I think. If you're interested, keep watching. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Sam. I am a makeup enthusiast. Makeup is my therapy, and if you feel the same way too, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you can come back and see more content with me. It has been a while since I have filmed anything, so if you're watching this, I want to say thank you, because I've already seen that there's about a dozen videos, probably way more, out there in YouTube. So let's talk about the details of the palette. It is the midi size palette, which is the size she's been giving us for a while now. This is the bronze palette. I'm just comparing it to, instead of $65, it retails for $69. I have a feeling it's because they're going to claim inflation, but it's also probably because she's put multi-chromes in here, and all of the ingredients are on the back of the carton. It was made in Italy, and yeah, we have a mix of cream to powders, her metallic dual chromes. There's a multi-chrome in here, some traditional matte shades. From what I understand, she posted some content on Instagram. These are all existing shades, or for the most part existing shades that she has revamped or reformulated with different finishes. The only one that I believe is a brand new shade is Vision, which is the multi-chrome. That is a brand new shade. All the rest of them don't have the same names as the counterparts, but were based off of shades that she already has. And then the Blackest Black is an existing shade in her line, but it has not been put into a palette from what I understand. So obviously, if you're like the millions of us, we saw this palette and we thought it looks like the retro palette. And seeing it in person, it absolutely does not look like the retro palette, but there are similar themes with the purples. I'm gonna just hold it up against a couple palettes. The bronze one is the one that I think it actually has a little bit more in common with, so I'm gonna hold it up with that one first. But I honestly don't think that there's really a dupe for dupe match of any of them. Alright, so here is the bronze palette on the top, and then we have the new My Collection down on the bottom. And you can see there's a couple shades that look similar but aren't quite. I'm going to swatch a couple of them. So the shades that I think match the most is Sultan from the bronze palette, and then Familia in the new palette. So we're going to just swatch those on our finger and see. And Sultan from the bronze palette is clearly lighter than the Familia shade. I think as far as the mattes go, obviously the other ones are in the same range of like being a little bit lighter, same range or tone, but they're obviously, like Carpe Diem is a lot more rosy tone, and Nurture is very cool tone, as opposed to Sundown, Beach, and Ridge, which are all more warm and golden, I would say. The other shades that stand out to me is Alloy and Invention. So let's swatch those two. And those do look very, very similar, even the shifts. So let's swatch them out on my wrist. They are similar, but Invention, so you can see here, Invention is a little bit more sheer, and Alloy is very metallic, high shine. And again, Invention is more sheer and sparkly, but they definitely have the same tone. The rest of the shades in person don't look similar at all. So let's look at it compared to the retro palette. Okay, so here's the retro palette next to it. This is the one that I feel like most people thought it looked like, and it has similarities in that it has like purple tones to it, but you can tell this is like way more fuchsia and these are way more cool tone and mauve-y. So I'll swatch a couple shades that I think are similar-esque, but I don't think are the same. So Instinct, which is in the new palette, and we have Rebellion. They're both cream to powder shadows, but you can see here that Instinct is a little bit more plummy and Rebellion has more of a red base to it. Groove from the mauve palette, it's a traditional matte. It's more similar, but I think because of the finish it just pulls a little darker. Let's see if I swatch it out if we can see it better. So that one is Groove, this is Rebellion, and this is Instinct. So this is from the new palette and these two are from the retro palette, and you can see way brighter, so they're not the same. Serenity is from the new palette, and then we have Jude from the retro palette. So let's see how those stand against each other. Now Serenity is a satin and Jude is a metallic, so you can definitely see the difference in the finishes, but I can see where maybe this was, you know, this one was the inspiration for the satin, because they're similar but definitely different enough because of the finish. Then we have Nurture from the new palette and Nude Mauve. They have the same tone and where they're kind of taupey, and this one is Nurture and this one is Nude Mauve, but you can tell that they are different. So you see Nurture has more of a brown, like it's just a slightly warmer brown, and then Nude Mauve is a more cool tone, taupey kind of gray color. The last midi palette that I have to compare it to, because I don't have the Glam palette, that's like the last midi palette that I don't have, but this is the Love palette, and again it has some of the purples, but you can tell they're very different. I think these are the most similar as far as the range goes from light to dark, but they're not similar as far as the color story, obviously. In this palette, I want to swatch, this is Spontaneous from the new palette, and then I'm gonna swatch Transparent from the Love palette and Lifetime. So this is Spontaneous from the new palette, Transparent from the Love palette, and Lifetime from the Love palette. And I think they're in the same family, but they have subtle differently. Same finish, metallic finish to it, but in person this one pulls a little bit more red, and I think you can see the shift there. It has like a gold to like orangey red flip. The other two are not dual chrome, so that's Lifetime. They're both like traditional metallics, but this one pulls a little bit more pink, and then this one is a little bit more golden. So far I think those are the most similar to what we got going on in this new palette. Now I want to swatch Edgy and Commitment. Commitment is in the Love palette, and I think Edgy was inspired by Deep Dive, which I don't know that shade particularly, so that one was Edgy, and then this one is Commitment. And this one's more warm than the one in the Love palette, so that was interesting. As far as the mattes go, Again, way more pink in this in the Love palette than it is in the new My Collection palette. I also brought out some of my little mini palettes because I don't know, I thought maybe some of them might be similar with the browns. I'm gonna hold this upside down so it doesn't blind you. It's already so reflective. But this is the mini glam palette. I thought the browns look similar, but you can tell that the mini glam one is a little bit lighter than this one here. Let's hold it up against the mini crush palette if I can get it open. Oh. All right, so this is the mini crush palette. Maybe the center shade here. Oops. The center shade here, and then Aspiration, but not really. You can see them on the top of my finger even though they're kind of stained, but definitely Aspiration is a lot darker, and I'm not really seeing anything similar with the rest of them. All right, so this is the mini Biba, and I actually see some similarities here with the two mid-tone matte shades. In the mini Biba, that is Izzy and Plush, and here is Carpe, Diem, and Unity. So let's swatch those. All right, so let's swatch these. This one is Plush, and I think that one is close to Unity, but they're not exact. Let's see. They're actually really close. Like, if you didn't know any better, you would think that they are the same, honest to God, but they're just like ever so slightly. Unity just is a little bit more peachy, and this one pulls a little bit slightly pinker. But I mean, to the if I didn't know what was on your eye, I would think it's the same shade. What about Plush and Carpe Diem? Let's try those two. These ones are a little bit more visibly different, even just doing that. I'm gonna swatch it right on my palm. But I mean, they look kind of similar. They're different enough, but you can see that they look slightly similar. So those two could be. Let's see. Pulled out my mini Lila palette, and I feel like that last shade on the end, it's like a light tan brown, could be similar to Nurture, but I feel like it has a little bit more yellow in it. Yeah, so they're on these two, and you can see that the one on the Lila palette is just a little bit more yellow, and this one has a little bit more of a taupey gray cool tone vibe to it. But they are quite similar, quite similar. I mean, it's just very slight undertones. And then the last one I wanted to compare is the mini Love palette. So let me just take a little look. So again, I think it's the middle shade that's My in the mini Love. Kind of looks similar to Edgy, but it being the cream to powder shadow, I really don't think that it is the same. So those are all the comparisons that I wanted to show you. We found a couple that look pretty close, but nothing is an exact dupe. And I think it was pretty smart of her this time to like reformulate some of them, because I think, you know, that's been a big thing with a lot of her releases lately. It's like almost a scavenger hunt to figure out which shades have been found in other palettes, which I've touched on this before, where I feel like there's not as many people out there who are actually, I know that the pans pop out, which is really convenient. There's not a lot of people, myself included, who are actually going to depot their Natasha Denona palettes and rearrange them. I think it's brilliant that you're able to do that, but I just don't see myself or a lot of people actually doing that. And not everybody wants to pull out 2 or 3 palettes to create a look, although there are people that do that. I just don't see that, you know, the global masses are pulling out 2 or 3 palettes every day to do a look, nor are they going to pop out the palette, the different shadows from the palette to put it together, you know, to create, you know, whatever the newest collection is. So I do think that there's a point to sometimes just creating a new palette, and sometimes you reuse a shadow or 2. I do think that I prefer this packaging over the past one. These ones are really pretty, but as you can see, they're very reflective and fingerprints galore. Now, that's not to say that this isn't going to get fingerprints, but it is a matte finish, so it's less likely to be visible. And yeah, it just looks very pretty and sleek. I love the little decoration on here. It's very simple and effective. I love that it's called My Dream Collection. It is her dream collection, and they're colors that she curated based on, you know, the ones that she uses the most frequently. But I think if you are one of those people that like to depot the palettes and create your own, this is almost like the most perfect case or, you know, empty palette to create your own creation in there, because it could be your dream collection as well. So I think that's really cute and cool. And yeah, let's get into the trio. I am most nervous about this trio because, to be honest, when I bought the Rose Cheek Duo, that cream blush I felt was too light for my complexion. I am not that dark, but I felt like it was too light for me. Now, just on face value, I do feel like this one is a little bit more, it's a little bit more doable for me, so I'm not as intimidated. I'm really excited about the highlighters. I like that they did the embossing that's on the I Need a Nude Collection highlighter. I know a lot of people didn't love that formula, but it's actually one of my all-time favorite highlighters, and it's so cute that it like reminds me of that. So I want to get into the cheek trio first, and then we'll create a very simple look with the palette. I wanted to do like multiple looks, but to be honest, I am not going to have the time to do that because I'm going on a trip with my sister and my mom. So there's just not going to be time for that, but I will create something simple so we can have some inspiration and see how they perform. Although just swatching them, I feel like the quality is there. And Natasha Denona has been very consistent. I don't think I've had a palette from her that is poor quality. I know in the past, like, there's been concerns about that with, like, I want to say it was like a Safari palette or something like that. I don't have that one, so I can't really say for sure, but there were rumors that that quality wasn't there. I have not experienced that with all of the palettes that I have from her. So, all right, so I'm going to use this Real Techniques Expert Face brush and use that in the cream blush. I have a feeling if it's similar to the Rose Cheek Duo, the texture of it is a little bit stiffer, which I prefer because you can use a brush with that type of formula. So I'm just gonna go in, and I got a decent amount on the brush, so it feels like it was soft enough to pick it up very easily, and I got bunny hair on it. All right, let's go in. Right off the bat, I like this color a lot more than the one from the Rose Cheek Duo. And that was very easy to apply. This is a very like neutral, everyday kind of color. It's an easy shade to wear. I feel like it would go with a lot of looks. So if you're not into bold blushes, this is like perfect. And the application is very seamless. It's very subtle, and I hope it's picking up on camera. All right, so I took off most of the product from the brush. Nothing else is coming off of it. And I'm gonna go into the cream and use the same brush. So it's called the Glow Cream Base. And let's see if this is a flattering shade on my complexion. I feel like sometimes, you know, universal shades tend to be like that lighter champagne, and you can kind of wear it, but it doesn't look the most flattering on tan or deeper shades. So with the brush, it gives a beautiful natural sheer glow. I don't want to build it up too much because I do want to try the Dream Glow powder highlight in here as well over top, because that's really how it was created for, you know, that layering effect. So this looks beautiful. Like I could wear this by itself. Like that is pretty much my vibe, and you can get that kind of glossy, balmy look to the face. I really do like that. Let's apply it to the other side so we can get on with the Dream Glow, because I'm excited about that. Yeah, it's just that touch more golden than most champagne highlighters, that universal kind of tone that I was talking about. I'm going to put a little on my nose. Now I'm going to take a more fluffy brush. Use this fluffy one here. This is from an Amazon bundle that I got. This is a Joseph MUL07. I like this brush a lot. Sometimes I use it for setting the under eyes. Sometimes I use it as a highlighter brush. So we're gonna go in here and pick some of this up. Woo! Picked up a lot. And that gives you a very bold glow. It doesn't have a cast that I can see. It's pretty. I don't think I would personally wear like an intense highlight like this, but it is beautiful. Maybe like one or the other, but it is really pretty. Let's make the other side match. Pull slightly. I don't know if it's just my lighting, but it looks slightly gray cast. I'm not seeing that in person, but the camera seems to be picking that up, so that is interesting. I'll obviously have to play with it more before I figure out if I really like that or not. But let's move on to the eyeshadow. I already primed my eyes with my Milani eyeshadow primer, so we're just gonna go in and create a very easy breezy look. Part of me wants to use this Vision multi-chrome shade, which I will swatch for you, but part of me is just like, everybody and their mom's gonna use that. If you want to see a look with that, I bet like you're not gonna have a problem finding it anywhere. So let's, it is a very strong shift. I feel like this is a good quality multi-chrome. I've seen other brands, high-end brands, try to do this, what Terra Moon and all those other indie brands do so well. and haven't been as successful. Natasha Denona, her liquid eyeshadows that I have that are multi-chrome are phenomenal. They last so long and are absolutely beautiful. This formula, I can tell, is flawless. So if you're interested in trying a multi-chrome in kind of a normal everyday palette, I feel like this is pretty good option, you know, if you're like not as adventurous and all of that, but you're kind of intrigued and want to dip your toe in. And I think that shade is a pretty easy shade to work with. You know, sometimes with multi-chromes you kind of don't know like what shades to use in the crease with it, what to use in the outer corner, do you use any other shadows with it, stuff like that. This is a pretty easy one to like read and work with, I think, personally. So without further ado, let's get into the look. So I'm gonna go into Carpe Diem first. I feel like that's the most easy to read crease shade for my complexion. And I'm very excited because I feel like everybody was crazy about the mini retro palette with all the berries and the mauve tones in there, and it was really beautiful. I love that palette, but my issue with that palette is that it didn't go deep enough. I felt like even the deepest shade in that palette could be more used as like a crease shade for me, and it could have gone just a little bit deeper. And I felt like it had too many, what are those, brow bone shades or whatever people use, because I don't use those shades ever. I'm trying to be more creative and like use them as lid shades or something like that, but I never use those kind of shades. So it's like you're just wasting my time. So it was not my favorite palette just because of those things. I can make it work, and I obviously have a bunch of her other palettes that I can kind of like mix and match, which is nice, and that's why I love her line so much. But I will say that for that reason it just never landed in my like top favorite palettes. Now I'm gonna go into Aspiration, just because I feel like that's a shade that's, as far as like tutorials and reviews go, isn't gonna get as used. So I kind of want to show you guys maybe something that you're not going to see somewhere else. And I'm taking that in my crease, but like a little bit lower. On occasion I've experienced fallout with her shadows, but I'm not really seeing any of that going on here, so that's good news there. And because she gave us the blackest black, I'm curious, so I want to try that one and just kind of, I don't know, create a little something here. Ooh. Well, that went on very easily. There we go. Little faux wing. So let's just do Thrill because it's so bright. And I'm really curious how well that's going to stick, because it's, when I swatched it, it's very flaky and just seemed like it would cause a lot of fallout. So let's see what happens, because I don't have a sticky base on. This is very much like a topper shade, and would definitely benefit from like a glitter glue. I didn't get any fallout. I just think like it would be a lot more impactful if you're using like a glitter glue with this, but it is very pretty. And then I want to take Thrill to the inner corner, which is this shimmer shade here. And it's way more pink than it looks. But still very pretty. Alright, so this is the final look. I did add a little bit of the blackest black to my lower lash line with Carpe Diem, and then just a little bit of spontaneous here, and then I went in with my Maybelline Lash Sensational Mascara. For my lips, I am using the Milani lipstick in the shade Desire. I know there was a lip kit that came with the collection and I did not buy it, because if you have been a viewer of my channel for some time, I do not love the Natasha Denona lipstick formula. I have 4 of her lipsticks and I don't like them. I mean, the colors are okay, but the formula itself is just way too creamy and it accentuates my dry lips, and I'm very bad at putting chapstick and all of that. I just don't like that formula at all. It doesn't feels thick and creamy, and it doesn't feel hydrating, so it's just not for me. So I'm not going to spend my money on something that I know I'm not going to enjoy and continue using. So this is what I am wearing on my lips right now. I'm really happy with it. I will say that if you use Invention, that's the only shadow in here from swatching and playing with it that's just very sparkly and piecey. Really needs a glitter glue. I tried to use it on my lower lash line and sprayed the brush and it still did not want to stick. I don't typically use a glitter glue, so I wasn't going to use one on camera for you guys to make it look like it's better than how I would normally use it, because I just don't feel like that's true to me. Now, yeah, I will use it and probably pull out a glitter glue. I didn't get any follow, and I was able to get it on my lids, as you can see, but I think if you really want it to last and you want it to be more intense, you're going to want to use a glitter glue or some kind of sticky base. Am I disappointed that I got this collection? Absolutely not. I think that the cheek products are beautiful, very seamless to use. If you are a beginner and you're looking to get into luxury makeup, then I definitely think that that is a really good product to start at. And it feels like it's very, not feels like, the color seems to be pretty complementary for a wider range of skin tones. I do feel like if you're darker than me though, then you're not gonna love that blush. It might just be a little too light, and the highlight might be a little bit too champagne-y for you as well, a little bit too on the cool side. It's not warm enough, but some people like that, so if that's your jam, you might love it too. The eyeshadow palette I absolutely love. I think, you know, when I think of my MIDI palettes, my Zendo palette is my #1 palette, and then I would say goes bronze and love, and retro really is at the bottom, just because I didn't feel like it really gave me that depth. This one, I can see it going above the love palette and the retro palette. It's right in that sweet spot. It might end up leaning itself a little bit closer to the Zendo palette than even the bronze one, but we'll see. We will see. So far, I really like it, and no remorse. If you're a beginner and you're just getting your, you know, toes wet in the luxury makeup and you're looking at Natasha Denona, I do think that this is a great way to start, because it has a lot of basic colors, but it also has vibrancy at the same time, so you're getting a variety. It has that multi-chrome, so you can test that out as well. It has some sparkly shades. It has the cream to powder shades in here. It's really diverse, and like gives you lots of things to play with. If you want to play in the sandbox, this is the perfect sandbox for you. So if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, go right ahead and give it a thumbs down. I know not to make any more of these videos for you. And until next time, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for hanging out with me. It was a lot of fun. And until next time, I love you guys. Bye.